Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Simpson. I'm an assistant computational scientist at ALCF in the data science group. And today I'm going to just talk a little bit about ALCF's efforts in computing for experiments, IRI computing. We're calling this effort Nexus, and it includes a number of components I'll touch on, but a really important part of it is Globus flows. So many of you, when you think of a user facility at DOE, you probably think of computing, but in fact, DOE has experimental user facilities. There's 24 of them, and there are all kinds of things. So there are X-ray beamlines, there are particle accelerators, there are nuclear fusion experiments. And similar to many of the computing facilities, a number of these facilities are undergoing upgrades at the moment. And during these upgrades, their data rates are going to explode. They'll be collecting a lot more data, and they're going to need a lot more compute to deal with this data. So, a good example is the Advanced Photon Source at ALCF. This is an X-ray beamline that's on campus at Argonne. If you've ever gone and seen it, it's this like big ring. It's pretty cool. And so the DOE has identified this as an area of strategic importance of connecting computing to these experimental facilities. And so at the center of this effort are the researchers with their science questions. And what we want to enable is the ability for them to reach out, to run experiments at these experimental facilities, and then at the same time, enable computing at computing facilities like ALCF, but also OLCF, NERSC, and there's going to be a new high performance data facility at JLab, Jefferson Lab in Virginia as well. So Argonne's efforts in this space, we're calling it Nexus. There's a number of components to this, and I just listed this here, and it's kind of a diverse set of things. You might think like, how are these all connected? But actually you need all of these things to make on-demand computing for these experiments work. So the first one I'll mention is a demand queue. So all of you have had the experience of submitting a job on a queue at a machine, and it'll sit there for an hour, a couple hours a day. These facilities need to run jobs immediately as data comes in, because they need to make adjustments to their experiments in response to that analysis. So we've deployed this on our machine called Polaris. So this is called the demand queue. It's backfilled by a queue called preemptible. So if you submit a job on the preemptible queue on Polaris, you know that your job could be preempted if an experimental facility sends a job to the demand queue. So the demand queue will preempt jobs and start running immediately. We've also been exploring service accounts, and we've done this with the APS. So every beamline at the APS might have a service account that can then submit to the demand queue. Data sharing. So we have this, the Eagle file system, which is a 100 petabyte file system where we've enabled enhanced data sharing services through Globus guest collections. And then just the Globus infrastructure. So there's the guest collections, but then also distributed computing, transfer, and web-based monitoring. And I'll talk more about that. And we have some other layers here. So we've stood up a community data cooperative where results can be published, and the beamline experimentalists can look at results on a website, for example, and a number of other nice things like this. So sort of our first example of this sort of new approach was done with the APS before it shut down for its year-long maintenance in the winter time. And so Ryan Chard was very involved in this, and a number of also people at APS. And this was sort of the first example of this model where we've got a service account for a beamline that's using Globus Compute to send jobs to the demand queue on Polaris that will then preempt jobs in the preemptible queue. Results will be returned back and, within a Globus flow definition. And, as part of that definition, you might have things where, data could just be transferred back to the file system at APS, but it also could be published in a website where people can look at results. So we were able to test this quite successfully. But we're also looking at a number of other demonstration cases. Like we want to expand this to the suite of experimental facilities within DOE. So we have sort of identified 3 use cases. So there's the APS, which I just mentioned. We're also working with a nuclear fusion experiment at Tokamak, D3D at General Atomics. And then we're also working with some folks with the ESGF, the Earth System Grid Federation. So this is sort of a different one. It's not an on-demand experiment, but it's a consortium of distributed Earth science data sets hosted all over the world. And, we want to be able to match the location of the data with compute so scientists can, query and get results back on their questions. So we want to link these experimental facilities with all the OSCAR compute facilities and the new high performance data file system, the data facility at JLab. So I'm running out of time, but one case that I've been working mostly on is this case at Fusion. So they have a Fortran code that they want to be able to run in real time as data is being created by the facility. We've written a flow for them. We've written a piece of software where it can detect, like auto detect, like what compute endpoints are up. So it can decide like, oh, Summit's up, I can send it to Summit, or oh, Perlmutter's up, I'll send it to Perlmutter. And so we have this dynamic solution for them to just send work wherever compute is available. So I've run out of time. I'll just mention that we've also been doing things with ESGF, and you can ask Ryan about this. He's done the most work on this piece. But I'll just leave this up here and just say, there's a lot of future work and challenges, like APS and D3D will come back online next year, and we plan to do live analysis with them. There's a lot of challenges around data transfers, porting to different machines, the learning curve to writing flow definitions. I didn't show that code, but if you've ever looked at it, it's very different from just writing little functions, I'll say. And so we need to sort of figure out approaches to this so we can onboard experimental users. And the very last thing I'll just say is Aurora is coming, and it's actually kind of here. So this is actual pictures of it and the last blade being installed. So, stay tuned for more exciting workflows on Aurora, maybe in a different context than IRI, but I'll just leave that here. Thank you.
Have questions? Like a Globus flow, such as Gladiator.
Well, Gladiator is an API for creating a Globus flow, right? So I guess I didn't use Gladiator for this Fusion example, but you could use Gladiator, yes. So it's exactly a Globus flow. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know when the ACDC and the dedicated web application stuff that you bulleted out are likely to become available to schmucks like me?
Schmucks like you should email support or me, and we can make that happen. Okay. But also, I'm sure you're not schmuck. Okay. All right.
Usually in the policy thing, the technical resources, you probing the endpoint not alive?
Yeah, I'm just probing the endpoint to check if it's alive. So if it's sending a heartbeat to the Globus service, I'm checking that. There could be other things, like people have been talking about doing things where checking like queue depth and things, but I will say, like, even just at the facility, that's not always a great predictor of like how fast your job is going to be picked up. Like we've had people at ALCF profile that, and I don't know that the facilities have a good answer for that. So I don't know that we can expect Globus, but maybe there could be a way where, if a worker starts somewhere, you can pull a function that's in a queue somewhere and put it somewhere else. I think that might be the way to go.
Your friends at IRC, think about it. They tend to discourage us.
Well, the demand queue is going to be, I think our solution is going to be the demand queue, right? That's the solution, which will expand on Polaris is the plan in the coming year.
I just want to observe they got preemptible jobs then, so there's hope.
Yeah.
There's hope.
Is that generally accessible to everyone or just to a select few?
The demand queue?
Yeah.
No, it's just for experimental IRI users. Anyone can submit to preemptible. It's sort of a secret debug queue. Well, not so secret anymore. Alex is like, shh. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.